Hi again, everyone. Welcome back to Shining Empathy. My name is Joel, and this is your full moon reading for March 12th, 2017. So this full moon is bringing some kind of interesting energies with it. Some kind of, I want to say almost like renewal energies. The deck, when I pulled it out here today, actually popped out 6 cards, and I'll just kind of summarize what they were. So there was more connection, there was family connection in there, so there's kind of your support systems, the people that we care about, the people that we can share things with, and who kind of renew us and our energy. There was the heart chakra. The heart is still opening, and I'm sure a lot of you have noticed all the colds and the flus. A lot of the lung stuff going around, and a lot of people I've heard from about and even talked to who are having heart issues. Nothing necessarily so serious that they're having heart attacks or stuff like that. Maybe in your case or someone else you know, but from what I've seen, just certainly drawing attention to the heart. So kind of interesting stuff happening there. And very specifically, pneumonia has been going around here in Toronto, and I think a few other areas as well. I've talked to people from other places and kind of similar situation. The other cards that kind of popped up were the door to personal happiness and healing, which essentially just means that we're making decisions based on that criteria. We're thinking about our own personal happiness and what we need to heal ourselves in our lives. I think, oh yeah, and there was also kind of a note about anxiety and stress in there as well, just with the changes coming. Maybe we're feeling that kind of stress about just not really sure where things are going or what's happening. We just know that things are changing, so the unknown can kind of make us a little anxious. So, I don't know, we'll see how that kind of plays in there. But that's kind of like the summary of what really popped up there when I opened the deck today. So interesting, because it very much feels like what's going on here. As far as my YouTube channel, Shining Empathy altogether is getting a little bit of new energy injected into it, some new life breathed into it. You'll see something about that probably in the next day or two, or whatever long it takes. So keep an eye out for that. And I don't want to say any more because I want it to be a surprise. And yeah, so I think I'll go ahead with the reading now. I don't think there's anything else I need to touch on, so we'll just go ahead. And I'm just setting the intention that this is for the full moon cycle. What do we need to know? And I just kind of like to summarize for people who maybe don't know or haven't seen these videos before. The full moon has to do more with energy and things coming to their peak. Kind of like everything's been building up since the new moon. All the new intentions, all the new seeds have been planted. Everything that was had begun at the new moon sort of peaks and crescendos, I think is the word I'm looking for here, at the full moon. So let's see what all that's about for this cycle. All right, I'm just going to pan you guys down here so you can see what's going on with the spread. There. Okay. All right, guys, let's have a peek. All right. So right away here, we're dealing with stuff that isn't necessarily, I want to say, aggressive energy. We're dealing with stuff here. The root of this is much more yin-based energy, more internal, introspective stuff happening here. Not a lot of physical stuff happening. So let's just have a little bit more information on that. And a lot of that, again, that stuff that's kind of happening inside of us and with the more passive energies right now has a lot to do with us making these decisions about what we need to do to make ourselves happier, any kind of healing that we need to do. Maybe that's even physical healing, if we need to just take care of ourselves better, because if we have a healthy body, we can definitely, it's easier to be happy. So yeah, I'm not surprised that came up. This is one of the cards that popped out. So what's been directly put into this situation that is sort of the catalyst for everything here is literally us in the position of the healer. We have taken on that role a bit more. And I mentioned that with all the heart chakras opening right now, a lot of us are looking inward and trying to find out what we can do to give something better to the world than what we're seeing, because a lot of us are living in this state of kind of anxiety and panic, and especially the new generation. And like, it's an epidemic of our society in a way, just based on like the people looking to the future, and they can't see anything good. All they see is like essentially our own species' demise. So, it's kind of bleak, right? So what can we put out into the world that won't make that any worse, right? That'll make it better. So that puts us in the position of the healer, and it's directly feeding that. As a result of us being in that role, we're learning to appreciate the smaller things. So we're not necessarily thinking so huge anymore. We're not thinking about, man, I wish I could make my millions and, have that huge house with 10 bedrooms or whatever. We're not thinking in terms of the excess anymore. We're appreciating the little things that are in our lives right here and right now that don't need to be fixed, that are just absolutely perfect the way they are. And maybe because our attention was so focused on the things that we wanted, we were completely overlooking these smaller, I want to say smaller, but possibly quite more important things that were right under our nose that we certainly were maybe a little bit ignorant to. So that is playing a role. As far as what's receiving the most growth right now, it looks like we're getting more grounding. A firmer grounding's happening. We're certainly looking at our survival. We're making sure that our basic needs are met. Let's see what this is attached to. Okay, that makes sense. So one of the reasons why we would want to do that, making sure that our basic needs are met, you don't just want to make any harsh decision, or rash decision rather, if your basic needs aren't being met. You don't want to be living on the street or what have you, whatever other situation that we could land ourselves in by making a decision that was not taking into consideration what our actual basic needs are, like a roof over our heads, food, etc., clothes on our back. And the reason that we're focusing on those more basic kind of things, those more survival things, grounding, etc., is because we're actually looking into these adjacent possibilities, these alternate realities, these other things that we could be doing, that we know we could be doing, but in order to actually move forward with any of these things, in order to open any of those new doors, we have to make sure that those basic needs are met first. Then we can feel safe opening that next door. We're not just literally throwing caution to the wind and saying, I don't care if I land on my butt and end up on the streets and without food, I'm still going to make it, I'm still going to survive. Most of us can't necessarily take on that attitude. It's just a little too scary. We need to make sure our survival is taken care of before we can explore those alternate possibilities. So that's what's happening there. Our biggest challenge right now is our focus. It seems that maybe we're being a little bit distracted. Let's see what's going on there. Okay, so as a result, we're actually being distracted from our intuition very specifically. So keep in mind things in your life, like I'm not going to say cut things out. It's about, everything is about moderation. So if you find yourself maybe obsessing about things that you know full well that if you give all your time and energy to it every single day, and it's not necessarily furthering you or your life or making anyone happier, yourself included, if you're literally just pouring energy into something that's really not giving anything back to you, consider where else your energy could be better spent. Your intuition is telling you what you should be focusing on, but we might be distracted by something else. So be careful about that, okay? That's in our challenge spot right now. So this is our opportunity spot. There is an opportunity to create some strategy here in terms of where we want to move forward to. So strategy comes up when we need to put pen to paper, when we literally need to start making a list and looking at the steps we need to take, even if it's just the very first step. But we just need to write it down and start kind of moving forward with that list. And again, even if you don't have that list, if you can only see the very first thing you need to do, that's okay. But there is an opportunity here to begin your strategy in terms of setting all this up. That strategy does involve action, okay? But it's not going to be aggressive action. It's actually going to be assisted action. So it looks like a lot of the planning that we've done, the strategies, a lot of that's been done. So in terms of what we've been strategizing for, it's almost like we need to ask for help in terms of what we need to do. Even if it's just guidance, maybe we need some resources somewhere, but whatever it is, we probably will need to ask for that assistance, okay? So don't be afraid to ask for that. Families connected, and this is another one that came up, and it's funny because I was just thinking about that when I was mentioning assisted action here, and who that might be. Family is often the ones we turn to when we're kind of really down and out, right? And whether that's blood family or just the people that we consider family, whatever that is for you, they are in our strength spot and directly connected to that card. So that tells me right up front that if there's anyone that we probably should be leaning on and asking for help, or if we need resources of any kind, the family unit, okay? They are in our strength spot. Patience being in our strength spot with family there, it seems like I get the feeling that a lot of the things that we might have been impatient about, we're actually kind of a little bit more patient with right now. When it comes up in the strength spot like that, and especially connected to family here, I mean, we always, I think a lot of us maybe get frustrated with family. You know, we all have our little feuds or rifts, tiffs with family. But, you know, by the time we become adults, I think a lot of us work out the small stuff. There might be some big stuff that kind of lingers, but generally speaking, like a lot of that stuff kind of like moves, it just kind of gets dealt with, and it's seen for what it really is. So patience with family is really strong, and I kind of see this card right now as just being by itself in the strength spot almost alongside this instead of directly connected to family. I see it as we are just simply in a space of being more patient. If we need to take some time to step aside and plan a little bit and do the things we need to do that way, then we're kind of more willing to do that. We're not necessarily like fools all rushing in and trying to just do this because we feel like time is just ticking away and it's against us. We've got patience on our side here for this cycle, okay? Now, what this is leading up to, door to value. I love seeing this one come up in our fruit spot, which is essentially the fruit of our harvest. It's essentially the outcome card in a way, but what this is all leading up to is the door to value. This is essentially an opportunity for us to have better resources in all fronts, money, time, to do the things that we really want to do. And then right beside that, blossoming abundance. Blossoming abundance is about the abundance in our lives that we have already created. So that in combination with door to value, that just shows me that we've got a lot of abundance coming our way. Maybe a lot of us have felt like we've been in a place of scarcity lately. I think we can relax a little bit because it looks like abundant resources are definitely on its way to us. What else do I want to say about that? When I see this card come up, I always kind of want to mention that no matter how much scarcity we think we're experiencing, there are things that are abundant in our lives. There's always something that is abundant, okay? And it's usually something that we have created. It's somewhere, okay? So be mindful of the things that are already abundant in your life that you have created. You made that happen, okay? And kind of, you know, especially because it's right connected to the appreciation card here, you know, give thanks to it, gratitude, acknowledge it, okay? But yeah, great to see that in the outcome spot. Now let's see what the last message from Spirit is for us today. Storm warning. So this came up in one of my recent readings. Not surprised seeing it come up again. It just means that this storm, whatever this is still on the horizon. There's still definitely some kind of turbulent emotional stuff happening. Actually, I had a dream last night about having all these just random feelings coming up. Anger, fear, anxiety, just all this stuff that would just be sitting there. And it was almost, and I actually had a guide with me, and they were literally kind of guiding me through the release process of feeling it, releasing it, feeling it, releasing it. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening here, is a lot of the stuff that we're feeling right now is that storm, that maybe, you know, the stuff that's really kind of giving us some stress right now. I feel like that's our storm warning. But the good news is that in our growth spot, we have our grounding. And whenever this card comes up, I always mention that it's really, really good to get an extra good grounding happening. Whether that's going for walks or just really kind of keeping your mind on something that's tangible. Try not to get too up in your head, spinning around and around with your thoughts, right? Because that tornado, the vortex there, that really resembles the idea of being in your mind and just going around and around and around and literally just creating chaos and damage in the landscape of the mind and the emotions, okay? I think that is it for your reading. So I'm going to pan you guys back up here. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought that was actually a really, really great reading for this full moon cycle. So this is essentially just kind of what's happening kind of between now and the new moon, okay? More so what's happening like right here and now, like for like the full moon energies I find are usually 4 days before the full moon and 4 days after. So that's like 8 full days at least of just kind of feeling out and kind of going through these motions and these energies. And then there's a lot of stuff in between, right? Especially with the first quarter and last quarter moon. But like, yeah, this is just kind of about what's happening for this bracket right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please go ahead and like the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Shining Empathy. You can also check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Shining Empathy. And that's it. Until next time, guys, I will see you then. Love and light to you all. Bye for now.